When a certain demographic can't understand something, the conclusions they reach are off the chart. Welcome to World of Batshit. A contention of flat-earthers is that Earth is a giant pancake under a cloche created by a perfectly hidden space mage, with the North Pole at its centre. If flat-earthers wanted to provide evidence of this, they should head to the edge of their fantasy frittata by going as far south as they can. Imagine my surprise then when I happened upon a flat-earther who's decided to go exploring and head north. Here he is. He has a channel called wayki-wayki. He's a flat-earther who has transcended peak dipshittery by also believing in astrology and other woo. He's also written a free ebook in which he proposes, apparently with a straight face, not only that the moon is self-illuminating and that the sun drains its energy to give its phases, but that the moon is an old, malfunctioning sun.
Drugs? Are you in here for drugs?
Why are you here?
Drugs.
Anyway, in this video, wayki-wayki presents what he calls a sleeper project to the world.
I want to present a sleeper project that can be activated at any time. If you are on the flat earth and are financially wealthy,
it's not clear why Mr. Wacky-Backy thinks McDonald's and Walmart pay flat-earthers enough to make them wealthy. Whilst some flat-earthers have managed to line their own pockets at the expense of even more gullible flat-earthers, let's not pretend that the audience for this video is going to be large.
If you are on the flat earth and are financially wealthy and have a real genuine interest in our true cosmology,
well, you could go back to school and read some science books and note how it all hangs together in a cohesive whole, particularly when compared to the haphazard, inconsistent collection of ad hoc explanations shamelessly crapped out by flat-earthers who haven't even checked for internal consistency, let alone checked them for veracity.
I'm looking for $1 million to activate the Flat Earth North Pole Assault Project, or in short, FENPAP.
The Flat Earth North Pole Assault Project. Since a fen is a kind of quagmire and flat-earthers find themselves in a self-imposed quagmire of desperately torpid thought, and since the fruits of their cognitive efforts are nothing more than pure unadulterated pap, this flat-earth project really couldn't have come with a better name.
We've seen that the odd 2 or 5 gram balloon or rocket isn't yielding the results we want or need.
Has wayki-wayki considered the possibility that if you want, or even need particular results, then your endeavours are not remotely intellectually honest? This is the antithesis of science. You don't chase the results you want or that you are emotionally invested in due to some conspiratard hokum. No, you formulate a hypothesis and test it with the intent of showing it to be wrong whilst eliminating bias. If it doesn't work, you throw it out or modify it and try to break it again, and keep going. But it's the way he finished this sentence that is the funniest thing.
Isn't yielding the results we want or need as a race.
Flat-earthers are a race now. Being stupid and incompetent is a race. No.
And from talking to many people in the Flat Earth community, we all seek definitive progress.
which is ironic given that flatards have contributed absolutely nothing to human progress at any stage in human history. But once again we see that flatards as a collective have this science thing completely arse backwards.
The Flat Earth movement has plateaued somewhat. Yes, more people are on the Flat Earth each day, but nothing is progressing regarding finding out our true cosmology.
That might have something to do with being wrong, not to mention incapable of producing any descriptive or predictive models of any natural phenomena, using living on a giant space biscuit illuminated by a flying magic spotlight with a shape-shifting lampshade as a starting point. Mr. Wacky-Backy then shows a clip from Star Wars where Obi-Wan is looking to avoid Imperial entanglement, where he, not Kenobi, clearly marks himself out as a conspiracy nut looking to avoid the attention of the ever-nameless and faceless they. What will the Flat Earth North Pole Assault Project do?
What the Flat Earth North Pole Assault Project will do is procure drones and private jets.
Oh, back up, sport. That's an Avenger UAV, unit cost $12 to $15 million. Remind me, what was the FenPap budget going to be again? I for one look forward to Mr. Wacky-Backy providing more information on how he is planning to have any change left from $1 million, let alone procure a long-range UAV without alerting them to his plans. As for private jets, well, let's just assume he's intending to hire one. Quite why he thinks that would cost $1 million is anyone's guess. Someone's budgeting is way out of whack. Some might suspect that he's just pulled a number out of his arse.
And provide a full-on assault to the North Pole, live streamed to various YouTube channels and Facebook pages.
Oh, to make it harder for them to find, right? Live streamed from aircraft using what exactly? Well, on board an aircraft over the Arctic, the only option will be satellite communications, using the satellites that flatards claim don't exist because Madome. I see. Please do tell us more. Actually, before he does, I like the way he showed this interior to try and make this horse crap appear more glamorous, which is ironic because the overall effect was to serve as a window into the state of mind responsible for this drivel.
Yes, there is a chance that assets will be shot down or threatened.
In reality, there is no risk of that. All they have to do is file the proper flight plans and stick to them, and adhere to the requirements for operating in the polar area. He thinks there is a risk though, and so also thinks it's worth putting other people's jets that he can't afford to buy for himself, and the lives of the pilots he's going to have to hire, at this perceived risk of death and destruction for the sake of his own fantasies.
But this is worth $1 million to share this, because to capture this footage is very pioneering and sets a precedence.
Well, that sounds like it's worth a few lives and property destruction, doesn't it? Because nobody has ever flown to the North Pole before, nobody's ever been there before, and nobody's ever filmed it before, apart from all the people that have. I really would like to know what he expects to see.
Many of you may know of Hyperborea, the Greek myths from 400 BC about a land to the north where humans lived in paradise. Many of you may know of Shambhala, the Tibetan and Vedic myths from 1000 BC about a land to the north where humans lived in paradise. Many of you may know of Tartaria in Russia, where the place and people, the Tartars, were erased from history in the late 18th century. We can still see evidence of this race and place in old maps and tales.
So, some myths about people living in the north in paradise. Based on these misrepresented myths, Mr. Wakey-Wakey presumably expects to find and film a hidden paradise whilst broadcasting it on YouTube and Facebook. Very exciting. Apart from 4 small problems. There's nothing up there but snow, ice and sea. There's a total lack of any accounts of Arctic explorers encountering any giants living in a region with a completely different climate to the rest of the Arctic that they crossed to get there. There's the mystery of how a lush paradise with permanent daylight can exist in a land that experiences 6 months of continuous darkness. And the last problem is simply, what does any of this drivel have to do with Earth allegedly being flat? You couldn't make it up. A flatard disappointed with flatard research wants money to do something that has nothing to do with flat earth research. Sticking it to the man.
There are also a few rare books about humans actually coming from the north.
The first rare book is one by William Warren, who apparently thought that the mythical Garden of Eden was at the North Pole, which just goes to show that you can get just about any crap published these days. Being a rare book, it is of course very difficult to track down, which is why I had no difficulty whatsoever in finding a variety of editions available from as little as $1.06. The second rare book featured proposes that the Aryans originated from the North Pole. So many batshit crazy ideas, so little evidence. Once again, being a rare book, it's easily purchased for less than $4. So what has convinced wayki-wayki that he's the man to bring FenPap to fruition?
I was a project manager on bespoke technical projects for many years, and am Prince 2 certified.
So he used to be a project manager, and we can only guess why he is no longer a project manager. But given that this batshit crazy project has nothing to do with flat earths determining the shape of the Earth, not to mention the ad hoc budgeting, one has to wonder if there's a connection.
So those of you flat earthers with long numbers on a screen when online banking...
That's your account number, not your balance. The only flat earths with money are the odd exception that have made money by fleecing gullible simpletons of their cash to sell them flat earth nonsense.
What are you going to do? Buy another house, another car, another business, or do something special with your existence?
The only special things flat earths have ever done fall under the category of having special educational needs. I'm not sure that counts.
Side note, feel free to translate this into other languages or re-upload so we can get the word out and get to the North Pole.
How about not spending $1 million and using one of a number of Arctic expedition companies who will take you to the North Pole and celebrate your arrival with you? You know, a holiday for these suitably motivated. You can sail, you can fly, you can take a dog sled, you can ski, you can walk, you can spend the night at the North Pole. Take your pick, flat earths. Both of the companies I've shown here have been operating for over 20 years, reflecting the increase in demand for more adventurous holidays, and their expeditions cost considerably less than the laughable $1 million that Mr. Wacky-Backy is hoping to blag from credulous rubes. It is obvious then that our former project manager hasn't done much research into finding ways for citizens to go to the North Pole. Oh, and both of these companies, and others, go to Antarctica too. It's funny then that whilst Mr. Wacky-Backy is willing to put people's lives at risk for his childish project, he apparently hasn't noticed that his perceived need for such laughable plans is completely unnecessary. Or perhaps he's just not willing to put his own money where his mouth is and use these companies to go to the places himself to challenge his infantile beliefs. He has the gall to charge people $90 for digital bullshit in the form of a PDF astrology reading, so you don't have to be Prince 2 certified to realise that opening a savings account will get him well on the way to visiting these places for himself. Since conspiratard crapstains will undoubtedly think that all of these expedition companies are in on the conspiracy, they should feel free to try them anyway and take their own navigational equipment along so that they can check where they're being taken. After all, agents for the Round Earth conspiracy are everywhere, right?
Wrong.
Unfortunately, Mr. Wacky-Backy has chosen a plan that has got fuck all to do with the shape of the Earth, whilst claiming an interest in progressing flat earth research. He is headed in completely the wrong direction. He should be heading south and circumnavigating the South Seas at a constant latitude to see how long it takes, whilst getting footage of the edge of the world, the ice wall stretching for more than 100,000 kilometres to hold the sea in place, or better still, the dome itself, or bringing back some of the light bulbs used for the stars. If you've been wondering whether there is any limit to the number of reasons flat earths can give you to laugh at them, check out the ones planning expeditions to expose the conspiracy. It's a world of batshit.
there is a chance that assets will be shot down or threatened, but this is worth $1 million to share this. If the project does go live, the public will not be told, as it will be kept top secret until a few hours before the launches. Maybe something divine is there, maybe something electromagnetic, maybe a portal of some kind, maybe a gateway, or a source of some kind. We don't actually know what's at the north,